More money should be left in your pocket, in your wallet, in your purse, for you to control and decide what you do with it. You get to be in a position of control. That's your choice. That's your option. And when you're in a position of total control, it feels great. I promise you. I absolutely promise you. I'll take you back to, it was July of 2008. And I had been invited to attend an event, and it was in the United States. And Matt Lovelady, who is still a dear friend of mine, very successful entrepreneur in the United States, I had lived and worked in the US on an international work assignment when I was a senior partner manager with Dell, completely different field. And he said, hey, you've got to come down to this thing. We're going to go and spend a couple days learning about this process. And I had no earthly idea what the process was. I had no idea really, other than term life insurance, what life insurance even was. I had no idea what I didn't know. And so success leaves clues. Would that be a fair, have you heard that phrase before? So I said, okay, I'll go down. And I was one of two Canadians that were in that room. There were about 350 people in attendance there. And this was a 3-day event. And it was a really big eye-opener for me. I took a bunch of notes, much like all of you will today, and came back to Canada, and I met with every life insurance company that would take a meeting with somebody who wasn't even licensed in the industry, just asking questions. Hey, I just want to trust but verify what I learned at this event. Is this applicable in Canada? Can we actually implement what I believe I've learned? And the response time and time again was, yes, absolutely. You can certainly do that. My next question was, why isn't everybody already doing it then? And I'll ask all of you the same thought process that I went through. How many of you own one of these, a computer? Show of hands. And keep your hand up if you know someone who knows how to use that computer better than you do. We all do, right? And so the device has always been there. Somebody just knows how to utilize it better than you do. And as it relates to the tool that we utilize to implement the process, right, dividend-paying, participating whole life insurance contracts, somebody just knew how to utilize that tool better than others. And people who understand this process are doing it. And look no further than the thousands of Canadians coast to coast that we've been educating for 14 years now. 14 years. In our very first boot camp event, there were 6 people in attendance, most of which were from our own team. And we had a couple of people there, and our whole request was to gain constructive critical insight. Hey, we'd like you to go through this with us. Give us your critical insights. Give us your constructive criticism. And that's what set the path. That was the domino that tipped over that leads us to today and the content that we're going to share with you today. It was not like that in our very first event 14 years ago. Isn't that good? And after coming back from that event, we decided, going back to the July 2008, we decided to implement this process personally in our lives, and that's where it began for my wife, Rebecca, and I. We have 4 children. 5 kids? 5 kids? High five. Congratulations. We're definitely in the same time zone there. 4 kids. Number 3 turned out to be number 3 and number 4 for us. So I have three daughters. 3 daughters. Lord help me. They're absolutely amazing. But I've always told my daughters, because I've heard so many of my friends and even family, that's my princess. Those are my princesses. And I've always told my daughters from day one, where they could conceptually understand what I was saying to them, that you're my warriors. And we're raising them to be strong, independent women. And I'm wrapped around their finger. Is this being recorded? Okay. But so since implementing it personally with Rebecca and I, we've implemented it for all 4 of our children. So all 4 of our children have 5 policies on each of their lives. And number 6 on each of their lives is in underwriting with the insurance company right now. There's a reason why we're creating a storage place for future windfalls for the kids. It's not to spoil them. It's not to just hand them an asset that has real value and say, good luck. That's not the purpose. What we understand is that, much like us, everyone in this room, you're going to need the use of money for the rest of your lifetime. Is that fair? And you're going to need to purchase goods and services. You will choose to take advantage of high caliber real estate investment opportunities that track you down. Because when you have ready access to money on demand and on your terms, opportunities of high caliber will find you. They will find you. And so for our children, recognizing that they're also going to need the use of money, whatever that medium of exchange is, digital currency, cryptocurrencies, whatever that is, they're still going to need access to capital. So we want the family to be very well capitalized because we've been taught to be divisive. How many of you have heard this expression at some point growing up? One day, you're going to move out and start your own family. You'll have your own bills, your own mortgage, your own expenses, and then you'll really understand what's going on financially. How many of you have heard that at some point in your lives? If we were to go next door and the next door room was filled full of affluent, high net worth, wealthy families, not one person in that room would have raised their hand when I asked that question. Not one. The wealthy don't talk that way. The wealthy talk about keeping money in the family, circling the wagons. I share with my kids all the time. I want your mortgages. I want your business opportunities. I want your real estate. I want all of that capital to come from the family banking system and to flow back to the family banking system. Our children don't understand TD, Scotia, RBC, credit unions. They don't understand that language. What they've been conditioned from a very early age is the term family bank. Family bank. And when I go through that module in a little while, did they give us seatbelts? They didn't hand those out yet? Strap yourself in, because that's going to cover all of the intergenerational components that Nelson espoused on us. He shared a very long time ago at that time, 4 golden rules. He said the first golden rule is to think long range. I want you to think 3 generations past your own. What created that thinking for him is that he was a forester. And so he was thinking he said, listen, in the forestry business, and we plant trees, how long is it going to take for those trees to grow to the point where they're ready to be harvested? Well, long before that, you should already have the next batch planted and growing. And then when you cut down this batch, you plant again and you get ready for the next generation. You're always thinking 3 generations past your own. And if you understand what's going on out there right now, when we first started in this process, we weren't dealing with all of the events that are coming together today. Taxes, volatility, inflation, longevity, the elimination or reduction of benefits, all of those things coming to a head at the very same time. Nelson was dealing with that back in the early 1980s when this concept was born. And when we hear people talk about, maybe I'm too old to do this, Nelson was 52 years young when he got started. I was 32. And so regardless of where you are today, I think Sarblo, the age of our oldest client who just got started, not just got started now, I mean just 81. And so you can do this. And believe me, when we're done here today, whether you do this just on your own life or whether you do this just on the lives of your children or your grandchildren, you're going to feel real good. Nelson, when people ask, who was he? what I can share with you is that if you were to compare Nelson to other remarkable figures that you can relate to, Walt Disney, Henry Ford, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, people who have really revolutionized the way that we get ourselves around, the way that we consume goods and services, the fact that some of you may end up traveling up into orbit at some point over the remainder of your lifetime. Nelson transformed the way that we control the financing function, the banking function, as it relates to our needs. And I had no idea at the time just how transformational that was going to be. 14 years into our journey, I would have never imagined when we first got started, we had a principal residence with a mortgage that had a 40-year repayment schedule. You could still get 40-year amortization schedules on mortgages in April of 2008. And I was an active real estate investor at that time. I was a REIN member for about 7 years. I had accumulated 13 doors at that time. And I thought, 40-year amortizations, you're not getting that on investment real estate. So to be able to get that on your principal residence, this is awesome. And the rates back then were great. So I thought that was our lot in life. It took us 7 years to get rid of the bank. 7 years. So would that fall into, if you were to classify that, would you classify that as instant gratification? No. Not a chance. The society that we live in now, can we agree that it's predominantly instant gratification driven? Instant food, instant coffee. You've got Amazon Prime, where if I ordered a copy of Nelson's book now, it'll be here before we leave the hotel today. Instant gratification. If you are seeking that as it relates to this process, I'm going to challenge you to rethink your thinking. I stayed the course because I wanted to speak from a place of authenticity and integrity when I was speaking to the general public, to say this is what we do. And when we were 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years into our journey, the time, when I looked back, the time had gone by extremely fast. And on that day, when we got rid of the bank on our principal residence, guess who the first person was that I picked up the phone and called? R. Nelson Nash. And I said, Nelson, I've got good news and I've got good news. What do you want to hear first? I said, we got rid of the bank. And we're so excited that we've got $1,892 now that we don't have to send to someone else's bank. And he said, don't celebrate too quick. Don't celebrate too quick. He said, remember what you're doing here. You're becoming your own banker. So because you got rid of the bank 33 years ahead of schedule, you need to finish the original loan schedule that you agreed to finish with someone else. So you're not going to change your cash flow, you're just going to change the process of who's getting the money. So that $1,892 a month, guess where that's flowing to? Not flowing away from. Guess where it's flowing to now? Back to our system. And guess what we get to do as it relates to the use of that capital? Anything we want. We meet with clients all the time, who say, I'm this close or I'm already done. I've paid off my home. Is that a remarkable accomplishment? If you set infinite banking aside completely, is that a great accomplishment? But when people understand this process, they begin to rethink their thinking. And here's how it manifests itself. Okay, I've paid off my house. It took me 25 years to do it. I did all the work to earn all the money. I've got the house, but the bank's got all my money. And I'm earning a whopping 0% on the equity of my home. And how many times has the bank multiplied my money over that 25-year period? And who's the sole beneficiary of the multiplication of that capital? The stockholders of the bank. And so if you believe for a moment that the housing industry was built no pun intended, for you, I'm here to tell you that's not true. It was built for the banking business, not for you. It was built to facilitate the multiplication and velocity of money. And what do banks do when a mortgage is created? How's the money created? Right? Does the bank manager say, give me 1 second, I just got to go back to the printer in the back of the bank and get that big wheelbarrow full of cash for you so you can buy the property? That money is created with the stroke of a few keys. It's lent into existence. That's why we're in one of the biggest messes we've ever been in financially. But we don't worry about that in our family anymore. We have a system of 63 dividend-paying, participating whole life insurance policies. 63. We don't rely on a commercial bank for anything other than the convenience of debit. If a real estate investment opportunity of high caliber tracks me down, I don't have to think for a split second about whether or not I'm going to be able to jump through all of the hoops necessary to gain access to someone else's capital. Does that bring up good feelings? What would some examples of those feelings be? Relief, okay, thank you. What else? Gratification? Speed. Because do great opportunities of high caliber just stick around and say, hey, we're going to hang around until you're ready? Options, thank you. Yeah, that's very insightful. Pardon me? Yes, very good. Seizing opportunity. And so when high caliber opportunities track me down, I have a choice. I can choose to proceed with it or choose not to and maybe wait for the next one. What a great position to be in. How many of you feel like you're not taxed enough? I met with, setting all political affiliations aside, if you just bear with me for a moment. One of my clients, his name's Nate Glubish, he doesn't mind me sharing this. He's a cabinet minister. And he invited me to attend a private function in the city of Edmonton, and this was a number of weeks ago. And this gentleman named Pierre Poilievre was going to be there. And so I had an opportunity to meet him, and he's the only politician that I'm aware of that's speaking on a national stage about digital currency and sound money and putting you in a position of control and a number of things. So when I met him, I said, look, I understand what you're saying from a platform perspective, but I just don't trust any politician, with all due respect, because you do have your own agenda. But it's better to have a voice speaking from that platform than to not hear it at all. And to reduce taxes, that's music to my ears, because more money should be left in your pocket, in your wallet, in your purse, for you to control and decide what you do with it. Not some government bureaucrat, or if you can name one government program that's actually worked, I'll eat your hat. And so look, you get to be in a position of control. That's your choice. That's your option. And when you're in a position of total control, it feels great. I promise you. I absolutely promise you.